Did you know you can make gourmet style crackers with just some simple ingredients and they avoid all seed oils that you get from the store? If you're just meeting me, my name is 𝐂𝐻𝐋𝐿 and this is the 𝐋𝐈𝐍𝐊𝐒 Legacy where I teach you how to save money on groceries. Our grocery budget is $135 per person and there's only 2 of us here at the house, so we spend $270 a month on groceries. We have been an ingredient household before that was a trending kind of thing because our kids had allergies. So I had to figure out different recipes I can make that were healthy and okay for our kids to eat. I love that we always have the same basic kind of ingredients in the house and we can mix things up and make something as simple as crackers. We will be making a recipe for this and the link to that will be in the description. But I do think it's important to talk about the ingredients and how I store them to keep them fresh longer. So the first thing we're going to start talking about is the cheese. For this one, I'm using the Kerrygold natural cheddar cheese that I just love. And sometimes you can use a little bit less of it because it is so sharp. When I divide the cheese up, I like to cut it and put it in a glass container like this. We normally go through the block of cheese in the month and it will stay fresh the entire time like this. And since we shredded extra cheese, I'm going to store that in a glass jar with a metal lid. And this is completely airtight and it will stay fresh until I use it, normally around 2 to 3 months, but I try to use it before then. And we also shredded some Parmesan cheese that we're using. Normally I keep the Parmesan in a stasher bag. So this is a stasher style bag. It's made out of silicone, and I find that the Parmesan cheese will last for 6 to 9 months in this bag in my refrigerator. We're also using cold Kerrygold butter. This we normally get when it's on sale a couple times a year at Costco, and I get extra that I put in the freezer, and that way we always have it on hand. You can use any kind of salt with this, but I'm using Celtic sea salt, and then I just put a little bit of it in my Magic Bullet blender and blended it up instead of cranking it to make it smaller. And if you want to cut back on the salt, you totally can and just use a little bit to sprinkle on the top since there is salt sometimes in the butter and in the cheese. But I, for one, don't mind a pretty salty snack. For seasonings for this, we're going to add a little bit of garlic powder that we have in this little dish here, a little bit of paprika, some cracked pepper in it. And if you want it to be a little bit more like an orange color, you can add turmeric. And for the flour, I always store these in glass jars with the metal lid. If you use a full gallon size lid, then the measuring cup will normally fit inside of it. But we are just using these half gallons today. And I love that it stays fresher longer this way, and you don't have to worry about any pantry moss. And if you're gluten-free, you can also use Bob's Red Mill gluten-free 1-to-1 flour with this. That's the same that I used when I made our goldfish crackers, and we have that recipe up on the blog too. I am going to be a little bit lazy today and not pull out my food processor and just use my Magic Bullet for this, so it will take a couple little batches, which is okay, but I do like to show that you can do projects like this using smaller appliances and you don't have to have really bulky appliances in your kitchen. So I'm adding 1 1/4 cups of flour to this bowl. So into the flour mixture, I'm going to add the seasonings. So the garlic, the pepper, and the paprika in here, and then maybe a little bit of the salt. So I have all the dry ingredients here in the bowl. I'm going to add the Parmesan cheese to this, and then I'm going to end up putting a little bit of the flour mixture into my Magic Bullet blender with the cheddar cheese, and that way I can kind of mix it up together and make the dough. So I have about half of the cheddar cheese in here and half of the flour mixture. I am going to add a little bit of the butter into the blender too and just blitz it really quickly. I didn't even realize that I do this. So there's the flour, the cheese, and the butter in here. I kind of shake it around a little bit and let the flour get all over the butter, and then that way it blends easier. I have this mixed up a little bit here. I'm going to add a little bit of the salt in there. And it's going to end up being about 2 to 4 tablespoons of water. I find it's just easier just to get your hands in there and form it into the dough. We did end up adding a little bit extra butter and a little bit extra water to this. Again, I'm just normally winging it when I'm making this. You want to make it into a dough like this, and then I'm going to put it on parchment paper and kind of wrap it up and put it in a glass dish, and it's going to go in the fridge for about 20 minutes. All right, the dough's been in the refrigerator for about 20 minutes. I am going to roll it out on some parchment paper in between 2 layers of parchment paper and this great big rolling pin, which is just so fun. We found this at our grandma's house when we were cleaning it out. And so this normally sits over here on my countertop, and I am going to roll everything over there on the countertop because I don't want this edge of the table to burn. And I have this little edge roller that will be able to make the little edges on the crackers. And then I will use a fork and poke some holes in it as I'm getting it ready for the tray to go into the oven. We rolled this out. I say we because I honestly had help from the person behind the camera. It was a little bit too much for me and my shoulder right now. But we rolled it out about 1/4 of an inch. The thinner that you do it, the more crispy the crackers will get. And then we are just cutting them into little squares and make a little crisscross with the fork. And then they're going to go into the oven. Those are in the oven. I'm going to start it for 12 minutes and then check it to see if I want it a little bit more crispy or not. So checking it at 12 minutes. And that made about 50 crackers, which is really great. And I also wanted to suggest that you can use this with any kind of cheese that you have. So it's a great way to use that little pieces of extra cheese that you have and even mix and match different cheeses that you might have. So just a great way to clean out your refrigerator and make it a pantry item. We ended up cooking these for about 15 minutes, probably because I didn't roll them out as soon as they should be, but they smell so good. They're just the perfect little cracker. You can make them as big or small as you want them. Now, these will last in a glass jar with a metal lid a couple weeks, but we'll probably eat them in the next couple days. Make sure that you're following along because we're actually going to make some Boursin cheese that you can use on top of these homemade crackers too. That video will come up on the channel after this video.